Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Chico and The Grin, episode number 24, coming to you live from Harlem, New York City. I am Chico, half your host, and I'm here with
John Smalls,
a.k.a. The Grin, and we're back for episode number 24. Thank you again so much for dedicating a little bit of your life to listening to this podcast. We appreciate it. We are here again to talk about some more weird stuff. We were just having a nice conversation off the air about how weird things are getting in terms of our food supply, in terms of FEMA camps, in terms of celebrity gossip and why celebrity gossip is, more popular than what's going on in places like Puerto Rico where thousands are dying. So let's just get right into it. Thanks again for joining us. So, Smalls.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Roseanne Barr? Do you want to start with Puerto Rico? Do you want to start with aliens? Do you want to start with science? Where is your passion at right now? Where do you
My passion is with art. It's always with art. It's always going to be with art.
Okay, aside from art, what are we looking at here? So
we're looking at two people in an apartment with a cat.
That's right. One cat.
Some Doritos and some beers.
That's right. For those who are curious, we're drinking Coors Banquet, only the finest beer for when we record. If I sound a little nasally, I do apologize. I'm a little under the weather, but it's not going to stop me from recording. So, big news right now. I guess
all jokes aside,
right? We should just get it out of the way, right? Because it's the big news. Roseanne Barr's show, Roseanne, has been canceled after she made some pretty racist tweets. Now, I'll say when I first heard the rumor, or heard the news rather, I was like, "How bad could it be?" Because the show was doing really well. The show was getting like 20 million views.
I watched the show growing up.
I hated the show growing up. I've never watched a single episode of Roseanne in my entire life.
I liked it.
I don't like Roseanne Barr. I think she's a weird
I thought
human.
her daughter was cool because she went to art school.
I don't like any of it. I don't like. Anyways, I don't like Roseanne Barr.
Okay.
So I don't really care that her show got canceled. I think she's pretty atrocious all around, and I don't find her funny. But I saw the tweet, and then I was like, "Oh, that's terrible. That's a horrendous thing to write."
Yes.
She says that she was drunk and on Ambien, and that she was Ambien tweeting.
Doesn't matter.
Tell me what you think.
Just like Joey Diaz said, he's like, I forgot. I saw him post something today. He's like, you got, he always has like those inspirational but fucked up things to say.
Yep.
And he's like, it doesn't even matter if you're on Ambien or some shit. I was like, oh, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just rambling. Look, man, when it comes to Roseanne Barr, she fucked up. She said something she shouldn't have said, and she got canned for it. Simple as that. But Roseanne has always been this way.
Yep. It's never been any way else.
And I've been following D.L. Hughley a lot.
Yeah. King of comedy.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of him as a comedian. But I listened to an interview he did from it was DJ Vlad's podcast, which made me really listen to him again because he's an old comedian.
Right.
So I've been following him on social media, and this guy, he's not defending Roseanne, but he poses some serious questions. One of the questions was like, what if Roseanne is really racist, or she's always been racist, right? What made people pay attention this time to what she's saying?
The current environment that we're in.
Yeah, but what's the difference between what she's saying and what Trump has said?
That's a good point.
And that's the problem, and I'm not defending Roseanne. What she said was fucked up 100%. But as a nation, we need some type of, I don't know if it's like a system or something, but we need to be able to hold everybody accountable, not just certain people. Like, I'm for free speech. I know you're for free speech.
Yeah.
So what she said was offensive, yes. It got her canned from ABC because, let's be honest, ABC knew who she was.
Yep.
But they only canned her because of money.
Absolutely.
Right? But that, I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't want to sit there and say Roseanne can't say what she said, because if she can't say what she says what she wants to say in this country, then that's going to fuck up everybody.
Right, because you won't be able to say what you want to say. So
my thing is like, if we're going to censor her, then we got to censor everybody else, including Donald Trump.
Right.
And they're not censoring Donald Trump, and to me that's a big problem, because you have a president who's just going out there saying whatever. He even said that. He was like, well, when they offended him, Where was the apology for that? And I was like, this dude is tweeting that shit?
He is
like,
the
come
most.
on, man.
He may be the most petty person in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's
that.
It's actually kind of amazing how petty he is, because he continually just surprises people with what he tweets.
Yeah.
Like you don't think it can get worse. Nope. Just when you think it's at the bottom of the barrel, just when you think it couldn't, he's not going to tweet it. There's no way he would tweet. He does it. And it's funny because Joe Rogan actually had a bit about that with George Bush, and he referenced it. He was like, it can't get dumber. You can't have a dumber president after George Bush. And somewhere in Washington, somebody goes, I think we can go dumber. And you end up with somebody like Donald Trump as president. I mean, I don't really think it's a free speech issue, because free speech really only involves the government's ability to censor you. And ABC is ABC is a company. It's not a government organization. So they can censor you all they want. It's their property. It's their network. They can pick and choose who's going to be on their network.
True.
So I don't really think of it as a free speech issue. I just think of it, it's like, I find it strange that Ambient, like, she's tweeted this stuff before. She has a history of tweeting like that and saying crazy shit and just being ridiculous. And I think it's like, I don't know, it's just weird that she took that hiatus from Hollywood. She came back, and you see it all the time with different celebrities when they fuck up. Same thing with Mel Gibson. They blackballed him for like 10 years after he went on the whole anti-Semitic thing. Yep. And now he's back. Now he's working. Now he's directing. You know, he's doing all that same shit.
Still think it's a free speech issue.
It's hard for me to think of it as a free speech issue.
I say free speech because of this. Hey, it's like I get it. I don't even know how to start this. Hate speech, right?
Yeah.
We all know what hate speech is. It's fucked up.
Yep.
You're saying something and that's demoralizing, offensive, flat out racist towards a group of people, right? So we can all agree, like, that's not going to be tolerated. Like, most of these apps, they have rules. This will not be tolerated, right? And then there's comedians saying stuff, right? And are we going to censor every comedian that says something?
Right.
Are we going to censor everybody who offends us for something? And again, I'm not defending her, but this whole topic makes me think of that.
No, I get it.
We're getting so close to being like, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't.
Well, we're already there, I think.
It's like
we're already there.
It's going to get worse.
Right. I mean, no, I follow you and I agree. I mean, hate speech shouldn't be tolerated, but it shouldn't be censored either. I believe.
There you go.
I'm sort of an absolutist. I think if you're gonna say free speech, there's no rules. Like, you say what you're gonna say, there are gonna be consequences to what you say.
Oh yeah.
But nobody has. Well, the government at least doesn't have the right to come in and say, I can't say that. If I work for a private company and I say some shit that they don't agree with, and they're offended and they fire me, that's on me, because it's not a free speech issue. They're removing me from their brand. Whereas if the government were to show up and be like, well, we don't think you should be saying that, I'm like, well, it's a free speech issue. You're the government. You do not regulate what I say.
Which is why Trump can get away with saying whatever he wants to say.
But he's not allowed to block people on Twitter.
He's not.
The court ruled he can't because he is the government, essentially. He's a figure in the government. Yeah. And blocking people on Twitter means that he is blocking them from sharing their opinion about him, and that's the government censoring the citizenry. So that is the court ruled that Trump cannot block people on Twitter.
Wow. Who knew?
If he's a private citizen, he can. Yeah. If he's the president of the United States, he can't. And that, as sad as that may be the most blatant explanation of the First Amendment. I can block you on Twitter. Yeah. A company can block you on Twitter. A celebrity can block you on Twitter from sharing your opinion about them. The president cannot, because he is in a position of power within the government. So he has to allow you to voice your concerns because you are part of a country that he's in charge of running.
I guess what really bothers me about this whole thing with Roseanne is just people get offended over what she said or what she put on, not said, but typed,
Right.
whatever, on Twitter. And they should. They have every right to get upset. My thing is, like, I still have a problem with hip-hop.
How so?
You know, when people talking about the nonsense that they're talking about and the murder and the genocide and the drugs and like, I'm just not into it.
I agree.
And I wish that would be censored. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, whether I don't. That's also like isn't that also like an art thing?
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of these rappers are authentic, but
What about Roseanne?
she shouldn't be censored. No.
You
It could also fall under an artistic thing, but
it could.
But she's come out and apologized because she's
Peer pressure.
yeah. I mean, again, it's there's a fine line.
Oh,
It's
you
like
know what?
It's like an artist painting or drawing something that's offensive to a lot of people. It's the same thing. It's art. It's offensive, but it's art. So it needs to be protected because if that person is censored, then that means we're already losing the ability to speak about things that may be taboo. And I think it's important as a society that we're able to talk about these things. I mean, we shouldn't go around like insulting each other, but in a free society, you do have the ability to do that. You know? It's like that whole old saying about New Yorkers, like New Yorkers are just angry people.
Still are.
Yeah, it's our fucking God-given right to be upset and angry because there's 9 million of us on a little island and everybody's a fucking rude son of a bitch.
Yep.
You know, it's just one of those things. It's just how it goes. And I think it's important that we maintain that level of vigilance and making sure that we maintain that ability to talk freely.
Can we move on to something more friendly and happy?
Sure. I like friendly. I like happy.
What do you
got? Kim Kardashian met with Trump to talk about prison reform.
I said friendly and happy. You got 2 reality stars in the White House.
How crazy is that?
And one's a president.
The best is that the tagline for that, I think it was the Daily News, said Trump meets Rump. That's whoever came up with that. Clearly,
Buy that person a beer.
right? Maybe give them a Pulitzer. I don't know for the easiest pun ever created on the planet.
Why her?
Do you think she's going to be able to help change prison reform for black men? I mean, clearly she's very experienced with black men, right? I mean, she knows them intimately. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Next topic. So, FEMA camps.
What about FEMA camps?
We've talked about
They call it relocation centers now?
relocation centers, immigration detention centers, lots of different things. First, before we get into that, I just want to say that there are these photos going around on Facebook, and I sometimes I feel like I'm the only person paying attention. But there are these photos going around, and apparently news came out that ICE lost like 1,400 kids or something. That 1,400 kids have been displaced. And you see these photos of these kids in like little cages and cells and sleeping on the floor of these prison-looking places. For some reason, the people don't like click on the thing on Facebook that like the actual post. They just see whoever reshared it. But if you click on the post itself
And read.
you'll see that the photos were taken in 2014. Guess who wasn't in office in 2014? Donald J. Trump.
Mr. Cheetah.
Exactly. So all these people sharing this and blaming Trump and his policies are so ignorant. And I've had to call 3 people out on Facebook about this. 3 people that shared it. I'm like, did you read the link? Because if you click it, it shows that these photos, and they even credit the photographer who took the photo. He's an AP photographer. Like, these photos are from 2014, and you're shitting on Trump. Not saying that he doesn't deserve to be shitted on, but these photos have nothing to do with what he's done.
Nope.
These have to do with everything with the policies that we've been having in place for years that nobody cared about until Trump showed up, which tells you that this has been going on behind the scenes, and everybody was okay with it because they had a cool president in office. But the minute you don't get a president that you don't like, you push all the stuff that you find from 5 years ago up. Or 4 years ago, sorry. 4 years ago, you just bring it up. I mean, I don't understand what people are like. I look at every time I go on Facebook and I see this ridiculousness. I don't get it.
which is why I do not like Facebook. Of all social networking sites,
It's my least favorite.
it's like everybody just complains.
Yep, that's all it is. That and cat videos.
Complains.
The cat videos keep me going back.
There's better cat videos on Instagram.
It's hard because my
Instagram has better.
My Facebook algorithm has gotten to the point where most of my posts that I see are cats.
Instagram has better.
I gotta get the thing is my Instagram's only for art, so Instagram feeds me exactly what I look for on Instagram.
Use a Chico and The Grin account. That's what I do.
And there's just cats on the Chico and Grin account.
It's like everything that I don't want on my regular page is on the Chico and The Grin account.
I was on it the other day. I'm afraid now to go and see what I'll see.
It's all types of shit.
There's all types of weird shit on that account. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are on Instagram. Chico and The Grin at Instagram. Come find us. We post all sorts of weird shit. All sorts of very weird things.
One thing about the FEMA camps, like years ago, I remember when they first, I don't know if William Cooper wrote about it. I think he wrote about it. Just mentioning, what might happen. And then I remember years ago, the crazy guy or, Alex Jones making videos about it and showing, the actual centers, right?
Yeah.
But they were closed, completely abandoned, but they were built. And he was like, well, they look just like, they look just like concentration camps, like from Germany, just modernized,
Right.
Watchtowers, barbed wire fence facing in, keep people locked in. There was turnstiles that you can only go one way. But I mean, turnstiles technically go one way, but these were like double, not protected, just you're definitely not getting out once you come in, right? It was very scary.
They only spin in, they don't spin out.
Well, technically that's what a turnstile does, but they just looked like a prison more than what FEMA was for, like the Federal Emergency Management Agency,
right.
to help people, to relocate you if you needed housing or whatever. It didn't look like that. It looked like prisons. And this was multiple
right.
places. So he puts out the video and he talks about, if you know Alex Jones, you know how he is. He's a lot of hype, a lot of scare tactics. But you can't deny what he was seeing, right?
Right.
And it's kind of shocking. But one of the main things he asked, he was like, look, he's like, there was gigantic playgrounds. He was like, these places are built for families and kids. But he's like, look at it. It looks like a prison for family. I was like, well, kind of makes, for me, growing up on a border, I was like, it makes me think of the Border Patrol and I had immigrants, right? You fast forward, you have the Minutemen, you have all this stuff going down in the Southwest. A lot of people don't talk about the militias down there in the Southwest.
Yeah, there are a lot of militias. Yeah,
killing, legally killing without any type of consequence, immigrants.
Yeah, there was one in the news the other day.
It's and nobody gives a shit because they're immigrants.
Right.
They're legal immigrants crossing to America, and these dudes are taking them out. Right? Or either taking them out most of the time, or some of them happen to turn them over to the Border Patrol, right?
Right.
So you move forward, right? We had a few natural disasters, but nobody's still not using the FEMA centers until the last couple of years when it's there was a posting online about there were positions available to work here, but they were called relocation centers. They weren't called FEMA camps as people knew them.
Right.
They were calling them relocation centers, right? In case of a natural disaster, we'll have to relocate you to a safer area. You can go be here. And then now it's just you take a look at the same exact pictures. The same exact pictures that people are circulating online. I was like, yo, those are the same places that were the FEMA camps, but now they're just detention centers for illegal aliens, right? And it's... I said it when Trump was in office, and that was just me being my ignorance is saying he's going to bring upon the end of the world. Just like people said about Obama, people were like, oh, Obama's going to bring black man as a president. He's going to bring the end of the world, the apocalypse. Hell, I even had my brother-in-law tell me that shit.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was but I always joked with people. I was like, man, I would never want to be rounded up and put into one of those things. And people think it's far-fetched that would happen. But look at what they did to Asian Americans during the war, especially on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
They took all those motherfuckers out.
And they put them right in the camp.
And put them in the camp.
In the middle of the fucking desert.
Yeah, man. So it's you give up all, people were burying their possessions in a yard and shit. Yeah, because if they ever came back, they can get the gold and diamonds or whatever jewelry they had.
Right.
But it makes me think, it's and I hate to be on a rant or going on a tangent, but I think it's something that people really got to pay attention to. That these places actually exist. It's not a conspiracy. It's not made up. It's not some, oh, this isn't true. No, this is true. And I was telling Gomez off the mic before we started recording. There was a guy from Fox News. I don't remember his name because I haven't seen him on television in a while. But remember, he was blonde hair, a Mormon. If I'm not mistaken, he was a Mormon, and he was like one of the not correspondents, but one of the main guys. He had his own show on Fox News, and the clip was he kept hearing people talk about these FEMA camps. So he went out and he did his own investigative report, and he found them, and he was like he could not believe what he saw, and for me, that was a big thing because I was like, okay, what's one thing to hear something from Alex Jones? Is one thing to hear something from like some conspiracy theory guy. But then when you hear like something from left field from like these people who they don't report this type of news and they're reporting this, that's a big deal. Have you ever looked into it?
A little bit. I mean, I've done the normal searches for FEMA camps and stuff like that, and I've seen some of the images. I've seen some of the Alex Jones stuff. The guy that you're talking about,
Oberman?
It might be Oberman. Yeah, Oberman. Yeah, could be Oberman. Oberman's pretty popular. He's like, I mean, for somebody who's on Fox, he's known as somebody who's like somewhat, rational. Excuse me. Woo. Got allergies coming in hard this week. But we're looking up FEMA camp stuff right now.
I just want to see if I can find that guy's name. God damn it, Google.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because I use a VPN.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I've known about the FEMA camp thing for a long time. That's one of those conspiracy theories that have been around for forever, essentially. But I believe it. It makes sense. Why wouldn't it be true? To create, I mean, the United States is very big. It'd be really easy for the government to build these kind of places in the middle of nowhere, and kind of keep them away. Mm. And if something were to happen, like natural disaster, they would swoop in and open them up and bring people in, and they'd be stuck in there. But my whole thing with the FEMA camps is like, do they have enough FEMA camps for the majority of people in this country? Because there's 300 million plus people in the United States. How many camps can you make before somebody starts to notice, wait a minute, you've got like 20 camps in every state. What's going on here? You can't imprison the entire population.
Could you?
I don't think you could. It would have to be a really unconventional kind of camp. Like, you'd have to brainwash people into like, I mean, I guess suppose what they're doing now.
It could be just a natural disaster.
Yeah, but then you have to let them out eventually.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, eventually people will get restless. You spend 6 months in a FEMA camp, and nobody gives you any updates what's going on with your home. People come looking for you. What are they going to say?
Yeah, but what about like, remember after 9/11 they came out with what was that book with all the new laws for Homeland Security and stuff, and it was like, well, you can be held without trial.
It was the Patriot Act.
Yeah. There you go, Patriot Act.
Yeah, that's true. You could be held without trial, but I mean, being held without trial isn't the same as being part of being absorbed into a FEMA relocation program.
Here we go, Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck. Oh,
Glenn Beck.
Okay. Yeah, Glenn Beck is he's a notorious super right winger.
Yeah,
is he Mormon? I don't think he's Mormon.
I thought he was Mormon.
No, he's definitely like some weird Christian sect, but I don't think it's.
So I don't know why I said Mormon.
I don't think it's Mormonism, but it's close. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen this. Yeah. He went crazy after this. This is his turning point. I'm not sure if you guys can hear this. I don't think so, but essentially it's Glenn Beck talking on Fox News a couple of years ago at this point, because he looks way older now. This must have been at least, 10 years ago?
Damn. Yep. 9.
Yep, this is about
2009.
Yep, about 9 years ago. Talking about the fact that he was trying to debunk FEMA camps, but he came upon them, and this is around the time Glenn Beck went from like a regular like on-air personality, right-wing on-air personality, to kind of being teetering into the extreme right because of all this. And I think that happens a lot with a lot of these people where they're on the fringe and then they find something like this that might be true, and then it pushes them into completely like libertarian, like super.
He is a Mormon.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom.
I was wrong.
I was right.
You're right.
I knew I didn't get that shit from
He's
somewhere.
a goddamn Mormon. He believes in goddamn Joseph Smith and the golden tablets. Jesus Christ.
But he wasn't always a Mormon.
No.
Version to Mormonism. Huh.
That's weird. How do you convert to something
He's
like that?
Christian who identifies as Mormon.
What the fuck does that mean?
You know what? That's too.
That's for another episode.
Can't go down.
We should try to get a Mormon on the podcast and be like, so explain to me, why do you believe this?
No, when it comes to religion, man, I leave everybody alone.
I generally do. I just want to know, like, why, what compels you?
I don't know.
You know? I don't know. It's weird. It's one of those things. I look at it, I'm like, but why? What is so convincing about this story you just heard?
Well, why do people worship like goddess Oshun and burn sage and
Because they have nothing better to do.
wear crystals and rose quartz and
It's all the same thing to me. But I question those people too. I'm just like, what in the world? Like, I don't get it. Like, if somebody was outside your window right now telling you some shit about how they're God and they've been sent here, like, you'd be like, get the fuck out of my window, homeless man.
I'm like, show me your power.
And yet, because it's old, we don't question it now. It's so crazy. And there's so much conspiracy around religion that in itself, that's the kind of religion, that's the kind of conspiracy that really piques my interest. When you start talking about the Catholic Church, and you start talking about all the big bodies of religion that control everything, that's where power is. Power is with religion because religion controls the mind of many, many people.
Well, the Catholic Church itself, I mean, they're
their own government.
They have more land than McDonald's. No, McDonald's is the second largest landowner in the world under the Vatican, which is number one.
Yep.
Vatican owns more land. They have enough money to wipe out world hunger.
And it's all tax-free.
Can you believe that shit?
It's tax-free, baby.
They have enough money to completely eradicate world hunger everywhere on the world, on the planet. They could do that.
But then how would they buy the shiny gold fucking change for the Pope?
I don't know.
How would they pay for his golden throne?
You know,
how would they renovate the cathedrals and put rubies into the walls?
It's like religion is all about control, in my opinion.
Control, status, supremacy.
Yeah.
It is a very, it's very
like
strange time.
I have my beliefs and stuff, but I would never force my beliefs onto any person.
Me either.
I would never look down on anybody because they believe something different.
I do.
I don't.
I do.
Why?
It's just got to make sense.
Why?
Because if it doesn't make sense, why waste time believing it?
What if you're not ready for it to make sense yet?
Then don't believe it.
Yeah, but if that person believes it, that's what I'm saying. It's like if they believe it and it makes sense to them.
But if it doesn't make sense to one person, if it's not logical, it's not logical to anybody. You're telling me that...
Like you say you believe in God, right?
I believe in the universe.
No, you told me you believe in God.
I don't believe in God.
Yeah, you told me that before, and I was like, I believe in a higher power. You're like, yeah, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus.
I don't believe in... No, definitely never. Nope.
We got on episodes, man.
We can go back and check. I will listen to every episode with you.
Yes.
I never said I believe in Jesus, and I never said I believe. I said I believe there's a higher power.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the universe. I don't know. I'm not saying that there isn't a God. I'm saying that until he shows up, I have no reason to believe he exists. They can't even prove Jesus was a real person.
He wasn't.
They can't prove it.
He wasn't.
There's no archaeological proof.
There's more evidence to say he never existed. There's more evidence to say that the story of Jesus was comprised of other stories.
Yeah.
There's even documents from the meeting from Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
Where they had a meeting to organize the Bible.
And yet people will say that Jesus was a man who walked the earth, died, was brought back, became divine, and is God.
I like the Dan Brown story better.
So do I, because it makes more sense, even though it's fake.
With Tom Langdon.
Yeah. I don't want to. I guess saying you look down on people sounds a little aggressive.
It is,
but it's like.
I mean, I know you're not being serious.
So I sort of am. I sort of am. I'm in the sense that, like, if you tell me, if we're talking about, I guess, quote unquote faith or or belief.
Yeah.
It's a diesel-ass ring on that phone. Are you talking about things that you believe in, that you're taking without knowing 100% whether it's true or not? You know, if somebody says, I think, you know, that there's a lot going on around in space, and I don't know what's going on, but I think that's where we come from. I think all matter comes from the deepest parts of space. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not smart enough to know whether or not that's true or not, but there are a lot of smart people who think that's true. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll subscribe to that idea for now because it makes sense. To me, in my head, all of this came from chance. The idea that there's some creator out there that's doing all this and he's benevolent doesn't make any sense because if there is a creator out there, then why is there so much suffering in the world? That's my gripe with faith. When people talk about how wonderful God is and how everything's a blessing.
But then 4,000, 5,000 people get killed in Puerto Rico.
There's not even that. Let's put that aside. Let's chalk that up to just the planet being weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are there babies being born with cancer?
Why are there babies being born and sold into sex slavery?
If there is a grand creator who loves all the things he creates, he would not create, or she would not create, or it would not create an existence for a child that has done nothing wrong and born into a world to suffer. Because that's cruel.
Yep.
And that alone, when I tell it to people who are religious, they're like, well, he has nothing to do with that. I'm like, then he has nothing to do with anything.
That's a part of God's plan.
Then he has no plan.
That's part of God's plan.
Then his plan sucks.
You gotta put your faith in God.
Then he's mean. He's a boy with a magnifying glass frying ants on a hot summer day. That's what he is. And that's my argument with faith in general. Like, if you want to say that you believe in this and this, and you tell me it's true, then you're gonna have to prove it to me. And if you can't prove it to me, I'm gonna tell you it's fake. Because let me tell you, the only thing that I believe in is stuff that I can see and touch. If you can prove it to me, I'll believe it. If Jesus were to walk in this room right now, if he were to drop out of your ceiling and be like, "What up? I'm Jesus," I'll be like, "Oh shit! All right." I'm like, "Can you turn this fucking beer into wine?" Turns it into wine. I'm like, well, he's here. It's true. I fucked up. That's how quickly I would change my opinion. But until that happens, I don't see why people feel compelled. I think it's like a weird evolutionary thing to look up at the sky and be like, there has to be something there. It can't just be us.
I was reading a book the other day that talked about that. I know I was reading The War of Art, which was good. It was about resistance. And what was the other book I was reading? 1 second. Oh, I know what it is. It was something my sister wrote. My little sister wrote. She's not little anymore, but you know what my younger sister wrote. And I believe that. Damn, I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. Anyways, I believe that people go towards religion for escapism, right? For a coping mechanism with life. I don't believe that anybody who's hardcore into religion, who studies religion, like seriously, how can you? There's so many contradictions. Like I see people who they go to church on a regular basis. They tithe. They do all these things, community service, everything, right? They live that. Let's just keep the Christians. They live that Christian life. And then they go out and they celebrate Easter. They celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Halloween.
All the pagan holidays.
Oh, yeah. You know, with full force. And I'm like, well, you're a contradiction. Now, I've met people, like, living in the South, there's some hardcore Christians. Like, seriously. And some of them, you be like, damn, man, you need to die just so you can meet God. Like, they're that. No, I'm not even joking. They're on that level. And they're like, there's different groups. And some people are, like, straight by the Bible. They don't deviate at all, you know. And I was like, and they're actually pretty cool people once you talk to them because they truly study the Bible, right? Versus like somebody who just like I go to church, like talking to somebody who studies the Bible, like really studies it, and they believe in God and the higher power. The conversations are different versus somebody who just goes to church on Sunday, right? You know, and
I've had these conversations with
and it's like it's enlightening.
I find it dull, and I find it insane. Maybe because I grew up in it.
Wow.
So, which reminds me of a story. Well, not a story, but something that was related to me a couple months ago. So, for those who are part of the Jehovah's Witness community or religion, right around Easter time, they do this thing called a memorial where they celebrate the death of Jesus Christ because it signifies the forgiveness of the sin for the forgiveness of humanity's sins. And in that tradition, what they do is you go and then they pass around a plate with bread on it, which signifies Jesus' body, and then they pass around wine,
eating the flesh,
which signifies the blood.
Cannibalism.
You're not supposed to eat and drink from it. You're just supposed to pass it. As the only people who ate from it were the apostles. In that religion, there are certain people who are what they call anointed. So these people are the ones that when they die, they become angels and sit with Jesus in heaven. A woman recently, and she shall go unnamed, because I don't know if her kids. I mean, if her kids are listening to this, then they definitely know who this is. But during the last memorial, this past April, they saw this older woman that I've known my whole life take a piece of the bread and eat it, and then take a sip of the wine. Which everybody, if you're part of it, look at that and you go, "Oh my God, what has she done?"
Shit's about to get real.
So afterwards, you have the elders of the congregation go talk to her and try to see what's going on. And she goes, "I just felt this overwhelming feeling that I'm a part of this." And so my question to who was telling me this, I was like, "So then what's the next step? How do you validate that?" And they're like, "Well, you can't. It's just a feeling." And I'm like, so, and this is somebody who I spoke to who has been studying the Bible intensely. Like I would call them biblical scholars because they know. Yes. And I'm like, so you're telling me that this ritual, which is supposed to be so sacred, she goes and she eats and drinks from the body of Christ, which essentially means that she's anointed, which means that she's going to go to heaven when she dies and become an angel. And she has there's no burden of proof that she needs. There's nothing that
How can she become an angel?
That's one question.
I thought angels were androgynous.
Exactly.
Okay. But please continue.
Some people call them angels. Some people say they're anointed and they just go and they sit in heaven with Jesus. It's supposed to be a number like 144,000 people in the entire history of humanity are chosen
that's in the Bible.
Chosen to go up.
Yeah.
Apparently, she's now one of these 144,000.
You ever see that series? Wasn't Michael Douglas? I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, it was a series about the fallen angel. Came out in the 90s. There's a few of them. I forgot what it was called.
I don't think so.
Damn it was good.
Yeah,
but I think it was like maybe 5 of them. It was like B-movie types. What's the dude's name? You ever see Kings of New York? Christopher Walken.
Christopher
Walken. He's like the main angel, right?
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I remember there's one scene where one of God's angels came to Earth to kill him or something, right? And his body winds up getting like mangled. But I remember the doctor was doing an autopsy, and she was just like, "What the hell?" Because he looked like the way he looked was like out of the Bible how angel looks, right? Not these pictures of like the golden blonde hair angels, the beautiful one. No, not that picture. And it was very interesting when the doctor was doing the autopsy because she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know it was a war going on because the whole movie series is about the war, end times and stuff. So she's just doing an autopsy on this guy, and she's just like, if I didn't know better, he fits the description of like one of God's soldiers, right? Because it was a male, right? But it was kind of like
androgynous.
Yeah, like the face was weird. He was humongous, muscular, and it was kind of monstrous, but human, but monstrous at the same time. And that made me look at the description of an angel, and I was like, well, from the scripture, this is how he should look, and the movie tries to do like their best interpretation of that. And I was like, and they had, anyways, I'm going off, but in that one scene in the movie, they had a little dialogue about what angels look like and how they're not beautiful, and how they are these grotesque, like mindless soldiers that would do whatever God asks. Like, oh, go kill this, you do it, because they're obedient, right? And that one scene, I always remember that one scene from the movie. I was like, oh, this is fascinating.
No, it makes sense. It also reminds me of Constantine with Keanu Reeves and the androgynous actress that plays Gabriel. Like that, she's tall, she's big, she looks androgynous. You can't
Yeah.
tell what she is.
Yep.
If you shaved her head and her eyebrows, you wouldn't know what you're looking at. And like that makes sense. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where like I hear that I speak to that person and they tell me what happened with that lady during that service, and I'm like, so she does that, and now like you're this large religious entity that believes in all this stuff, and you have no way to validate whether or not she's either A, just got really emotional, B, maybe she is anointed, or C, maybe she's having some kind of psychopathy where she can't really, she's just having a moment.
Yep.
But you just have to accept it, and that's the faith. And he goes, well, that's faith. You just kind of have to accept it. You can tell whether or not she's crazy. You can tell whether or not she's having a mental episode. If she seems like she's within her wits and she did it, then obviously she felt something. I'm like, but you feel stuff all the time. That doesn't mean it's right or true.
I feel I should quit my job every day.
Right.
Doesn't mean I should do it.
I mean, but you feel different kinds of emotions every day. You go through emotion. We're emotional creatures. But do we take that and let that be the guiding principle for something that so many people are so heavily tied into?
Why do you believe in a higher power?
Because so it's not that I believe in a higher power. It's I don't know if there is one. So I have to keep the possibility open that there might be one. Because
you really you don't
I don't
believe.
know. I don't know.
You don't know. Like I believe in a higher power. 100%.
If a higher power were to show themselves,
yeah,
I would not be surprised. If I went the rest of my life and they somehow discovered that there is no higher power and they were able to definitively prove that everything that ever existed was just by chance, I wouldn't be surprised. It's one of those things. Like, if you're going to say that there's a higher power that created every single thing around us, I need you to prove it to me. You have to. Because if not, then that's such an extraordinary claim. You could make... Then if I believe that, then I should believe every other extraordinary claim that it's ever happened in history.
Loch Ness.
Everything.
Yeah. Bigfoot.
Why would I believe one extraordinary thing just because it's old and not an extraordinary thing that I heard 5 minutes ago from some guy on the street?
Yep.
What's the difference? That one's old and one's not?
That's one thing that always gets me with religious people. It's like, again, I'm just going to stick, when I say religion, I'm just sticking to Christians, right? It's like, they're so quick to shoot down an idea that's different, but I'm like, you're supposed to believe in everything out of the Bible. The Bible has some crazy stories in there.
Yep.
And I'm like, but you won't believe in aliens, or you don't believe in the possibility of extraterrestrials, or you won't believe in humanity and our history and secrets. And no, I don't believe in none of that. That's make believe. I'm like, but you believe in this stuff.
Yep.
Which has no evidence whatsoever. But this stuff, on the other side, has tons of evidence. It's just missing holes. But at least there's evidence.
Yep.
You're like, this shit happened.
Yep.
But
that's the thing.
It's
like,
frustrating sometimes. A lot of times.
Right. I'm more likely to believe in conspiracy theories than I am in religion, because at least with conspiracy theories, a lot of those theories have been proven to be right. Or have
especially nowadays.
Or have some basis in reality.
Yep.
Some of them get carried away and are...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, religion is the biggest conspiracy theory because it's something that's in control of humanity.
Yep.
And it's the cause of a lot of suffering in the world.
That's what it was. I'm sorry. Earlier in this podcast, I was referring to a book that I read, but it wasn't a book. I was listening to a podcast, The Higher Side Chat, the latest episode. And the guy that they had on there was he was an occultist. Right? He was actually I think he was an apprentice under Anton LaVey. He was in the Church of Satan for a long time, and then he just broke out. And he's like he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. But he always studied. He continued to study the occult. And on the podcast, I think it was the episode from this week. He was talking about the power of the church. And it was the episode itself wasn't about the occult. It was about Satanism or anything like that, but it was about the power of the church over people and how the church itself, you got Catholicism, Christianity, Muslim, Buddhist, and Judaism, right?
Yep.
And how, yes, they all teach a certain thing and a quality of life and how we should treat each other as human beings, but overall, it's just about control.
Yep.
And the guy, I forgot his name offhand, but I could look it up. He was just going on a rant about that, and that's the idea when I was saying, when I was referring to I read a book. It wasn't a book; it was this podcast. It was interesting because the guy was just like, it's all about controlling people, man. If you're not in a system, if you don't go to church, you're an outcast. If you don't participate in a program, you're an outcast. But the program itself is a cult. It's a cult.
Absolutely.
No matter how people look at it. And I was like, you're absolutely right, man. But like for me, I've always had a burning feeling that there was more to the world, right? Like when I was younger, I wanted to be an explorer. Yeah, I always wanted to be an explorer like Lois and Clark. You know, I used to cover my room with like maps. You know, and in Indiana Jones going on his adventures. I love that stuff. You know, and then as I got older, I moved into art. I moved into like auto mechanics. I always wanted to work with my hands, but I've never stopped that urge to just search and find more. You know, and when I was growing up, going to like museums, and I was like, well, there's a lot of stuff out here. You know, and I think it's so closed-minded and narrow-minded people that feel like this is it. And I'm like, no, this is not it.
Well, what if it is?
I don't think it is. I think my honest belief is just like what most archaeologists believe. Like, yo, there was a great civilization on the planet that was way more advanced than what we are right now, and there was just a natural disaster that wiped out like 90% of life.
But then where was God then?
I'm not talking about God. I'm just talking about life.
Yeah, but I mean,
what's
the whole thing of?
But God, like to me, God isn't some spiritual being who can see everything and who can. To me, God could just be a higher life form. God could be an alien. God could be somebody who.
So it's not something that's in charge.
No, not at all.
Okay,
you know, I look like, because I like to go into the whole mysticism route. That's something else, right? To go into like the alternate dimension. The fourth and fifth dimension, right?
Yeah,
that's something else. I'm trying to base it on just let's just keep it to like factual stuff. If a being came down right now and he was like, I'm an angel, I have a message to you. To me, I would look at that person and be like, or whatever that being, I'm like, okay, well, they either came from another dimension, they came from a ship, they came from somewhere. They don't just appear, right? That's a living being of some sort who comes from a place. That place can be an alternate dimension. That place could be another planet. Who knows? But it's something. But I say like to sit there and say like, oh, a God is a spirit. A God is a feeling. Like, nah. I don't jive with all that, man.
I mean that makes sense. That's just another way of looking at it.
That's how.
Yeah. I just don't like the traditional way of looking at that. It doesn't like if something like that happened, I'd be like, well, that's interesting. But like when I see people talk about how, you know, God created everything around us and all this is a plan of a grand creator and nothing happens by accident and this is all just part of the plan, or when something bad happens to somebody, like we have to trust in God's plan. This happened for a reason and God knows why. I'm like, no, I don't believe that at all. That some people just have bad luck.
I believe
shit just happens.
From what I've researched, there was prophets sent to all the great nations of the world at some point, right? Whether it's always men, but whether men decide to dispute which one is more accurate or which one is more believable, that's something else. But the messages are always the same. You know, I think our personal division, our personal jealousy, or our personal classism, or however you want to label it, separates us. But the message in all the great books of the world, it's always the same message. But we too blinded to fucking realize that. We're all in this together. And people just want to hate. Oh, you're this, you're that. I'm like, when it comes down to DNA, we've got the same genetic code.
Some of us do.
Yeah, some of us do.
White people still have Neanderthal in them.
Some people do, yeah. And then some people from Southeast Asia, they have a different code. Asians have a different code. Africans have a different code. People in America have a different genetic code. But what I'm saying is like the people, if everybody in America is fighting over the same thing, just from different viewpoints, but we all want the same thing, that's idiotic because when it comes down to it, we are all the same. Our division comes from the surface. It's not deep down. Like if everybody's fighting for equal rights and justice and a decent way of living, who doesn't fight for that? Black, white, brown, Asian, we all fight for the same thing, but we're divided because of surface shit, because of bullshit. It's just like in the Middle East. People are separated and they're divided and they hate each other for what? Look at the DNA. Are you the same? Are you from this area? Because your code will say that, right?
Right.
And deep down, you're relatives. You at some point you were separated. It's just like in Africa, right? When the Dutch came in and they colonized it, it was like, well, you're gonna be from this tribe and you're gonna be from that tribe. Like, that's my cousin. That's my brother. Oh, it doesn't matter. You're in this tribe now. You're in that tribe now. Next thing you know, you got a genocide. Because people going around killing each other because they're from different tribes. But who made up those tribes? You know what I'm saying? It's like, who caused that division? And the division is bullshit. Because at the end of the day, most of us are from the same. Like, if you, and when I say the same, it's like, yeah, if you grew up in this area, you grew up in that area, you're from the same, you and the people in your area, y'all the same. It's like, it's so much division is bullshit, man.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of humanity.
That's not the story of humanity. That's just the conflicts that we're dealing with nowadays.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We should finish on a positive note.
Oh, we finished? We're done?
Well, we're about 50 minutes in.
Can keep going.
We could keep going.
I think this episode has been so dark.
I like dark though. Dark is good,
but it's I think we've scratched the surface and there's more to say. We don't have to keep saying it tonight. I know you got to go, but I feel like there's a lot more we can be said than we just scratched the surface.
More to say about what?
Everything. About religion, politics, FEMA camp, freedom of speech, Kim K going to the White House. I just think there's a lot going on, man. And
should we talk about the Pusha T and Drake beef?
No.
Because did you listen to the Pusha T, the song Adonis? That shit was fire. I've never felt so personally. After listening to that song, I was like, oh my God. Like, I felt like I got personally attacked. I was like,
yes, I listened to it. I don't want to talk about that shit.
Why not? Why not? Does it make you feel something? Does it make you feel kind of way?
No.
It should.
Why?
Because that was the most personal attack I've ever heard on a diss track.
No.
You know how personal it is? Drake had to issue a statement about the blackface that he did, which doesn't make sense because he's black.
But yeah, that was for like an ad campaign.
He humanized somebody so much in a fucking diss track that the other dude, like, he made everybody feel bad. He was like, Pusha T literally just made everybody go, ooh, that makes me feel uncomfortable.
But I wouldn't say it was the worst that I've heard ever. Because for me, I think like the worst was Biggie and Tupac. I think that was just. Yeah, I think that was the worst. And then Nas and Jay-Z was legit.
The Tupac and Biggie thing is interesting because they both
hit him up. That was a fucking classic record.
They both fucking end up dying.
Yeah.
But this was like, because Drake just is so big, and Pusha T was just like, all right, you want to talk about my girlfriend or my wife, whatever? I'm
gonna take it personal.
He went in on this kid's baby, his son that he had with a porn star.
Yeah.
And he just blew his whole shit up.
Nope.
When I listened to that, I listened to that whole track. I was like, because the track itself is only like 2 minutes long. And I was like, I gotta listen to that again. And I listened to it again. I'm like, oh my! Like because I heard Drake's diss, the I'm upset one, and I'm like, that's kind of. I mean, that's okay. I like Drake. He's okay.
He makes good anthems.
Yeah, I mean, because he fucked up Meek Mill when he did the diss track to Meek Mill.
Got a Grammy
back
for
to
that.
back. I was like,
and he got a Grammy for it.
Yeah, and Drake, when Drake does that to a real rapper, but then Pusha T did that to Drake, I was like, and then at the end, Pusha T goes, and here this guy's talking about, I'm upset. Let me know when you angry. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what? And I'm not even a hip hop head like that. But when I heard that, I was like, oh, this shit's fire. This shit was so good.
What I love was the memes.
Oh, the memes are amazing.
The memes.
They came out with a video. I got to send it to you on Facebook.
The Brenda's got a baby?
Yes.
With the faces.
And you see Drake throwing the baby in the garbage? I was like, what? That was so good.
One where it was like some basketball coach, and he's like, he's all hype, and the basketball coach runs from the hallway into like this room, and the room has like all the players, and the players are like just jumping up and down, and it's like, yeah, this is Drake's kid telling everybody that I told you Drake was a father.
Oh no! Oh shit! That's crazy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for our show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't listened to the Drake Pusha T diss tracks, you should go listen to those. You can find them on the internet, whatever. But what you could also find on the internet is our social media. Instagram, you can find us at Chico and The Grin. Twitter, Chico and The Grin, even though we really don't use it. Facebook, you can find us at Chico and The Grin. And if you have any questions that you'd like to talk to us about, anything you'd like to share with us, maybe you didn't like this episode, maybe you did, maybe you think I'm full of shit for not really being into religion, let me know. Chico and The Grin at gmail.com. Feel free. We are more than happy to read your stuff online. And if you can, leave us a review on iTunes podcast or Google Play. The reviews help us so much.
And send us links to stuff we should research.
Absolutely. We're always looking for more content to talk about. I know we tend to hit on the same subjects over and over again, but that's just kind of the stuff that we're into, so we always circle back to it.
I also had a movie list, but Gomez wants to go home and play with his cat, so I can't read it.
What movie list?
Now you want to talk about it?
Yeah, go for it.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for the next episode.
Save it for the next one.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Chico.
I guess I'm the Grin.
He is the Grin, and we'll see you later.